Hey guys, I'm Russell, founder of BaccOff, and today we are dipping BaccOff caramel coffee. Some good stuff. We're also talking about power. Now, I don't know if you'd say BaccOff caramel's powerful, but we're going to talk about some powerful guns. So let's just get us a couple. I like 2 pouches myself. Woo-hoo. Alright, so I'm gonna do a couple of my gun videos for you. I'm gonna just do one right now, and then I'm gonna turn around and do another one on another powerful gun. And so over the next 2 episodes, we're gonna be talking about the original office gun, which was a 7mm STW, and then we're gonna talk about a Weatherby 300 Magnum. And so you can see them here, right? The STW, as you can see, is bigger than the 300 Weatherby. And for comparison's sake, let's just look at just a regular old 30-06 and see how much smaller it is. Now, 30-06, as you know, is a bad boy. The 300 Weatherby is a super bad boy, and the STW is ridiculous. Okay, so let's talk about the STW a little bit. I'm going to tell you about my original office gun. Okay, this thing is heavy, number one. This is a stock Remington Sendero that I bought used, and this is really what got me into long-range shooting. Oh, I think I'm going to sit down here and talk about this. So, this old Remington Sendero is what got me into long-range shooting. Sort of. Well, what really happened was I was at work, and it was during the rut, and I saw a big old deer come running across the field, which is now my office field. It wasn't back then. And I pulled out my old 30-06, and I raised up, just guessing, to be honest with you, and I shot him at 515 yards, and that was so spectacular that I thought, man, I have got to do this. And so I put in and went to looking, and I found this 7mm STW. Now, at the time, in our minds, because we didn't know any better, we thought the more power, the better. And so this was about the most powerful gun that had very long range capability that I could get. So I bought this, and I put a different scope on, and I figured out all this turning stuff, you know, the yardage and what have you, and shot it out to 400 yards and was getting groups like this, which was amazing to me because I had never shot that far before. Probably the furthest I'd ever shot onto a target was 200 yards. But I found that, I can click this up to the 300 yard mark, and I can click it up to the 400 yard mark. And so the very first time I ever shot a deer with this gun was at about 520, and I clicked it up to 520, boom, you got the deer. And that's really how all this office stuff was born. And so and back then it had a stock Remington heavy varmint, I think, barrel on it. And when you shot this gun, or when I shot this gun, I would be pointing out the window at the deer, and by the time I shot, it would be way over here. It doesn't, and the weird thing about a STW is, or at least this one, it doesn't kick you. It doesn't slap you. It just pushes the heck out of you, and I don't care what you do. You're not going to stay in the same place behind it. But it doesn't hurt you, okay? And so, shot a lot of deer with this gun from the office and that actually got me into long-range shooting. Not so much hunting, but shooting. And every year I'd go and kill some deer. And the first few times I did it, people called it luck and jinx and all this. And after about 3 or 4 or 5 deer, they just quit talking about that. Because we're talking only 500 yards, you know. And So then I had my office gun built, and I started building other long range guns and started going into this and that. And, so I kind of retired this gun. But then after a while, after shooting at 1,000 yards, I said, you know, I would like to shoot a mile. The barrel on this gun was completely worn out. The original factory barrel. I didn't realize that till I was cleaning it, and chunks of metal started coming out of it. Literally. And it looked like a safety glass windshield that had been shot with a bullet, and it just had cracks all down the inside of it. So I took that off, put this gigantic stainless barrel on. I don't know who made it, but probably Krieger. I'm not sure how long it is, but it's approaching a solid 36 inches. And put this big muzzle brake on. This is the name of this muzzle brake is the Big Fat Bastard. And just so you know, and I'm sure some of you guys have heard about it. And then I put this on. Now this is a unique little deal, and I don't know if I've shown you one of these before, but the same guy, machinist guy, tool and die maker that makes these bipods made this, and he came up with this concept and developed the concept, and so it has 10 places. Each place is individually adjusted. So when I put it down here on this number 1 place, and I keep my scope zeroed, that's 100 yards. Now on this particular gun, when I go out to there, that's a mile. So we just went from 100 yards to a mile just that fast. Now, that sounds good in theory, okay? But there's a lot of atmospheric considerations to make. And the reason I left this on was because when you're shooting that far, your scope doesn't have enough adjustment to be able to adjust out to a mile. So I went on and just left this. Most of the time, you'll put a what they call a 420 or 40 MOA rail, which raises the back up, tilts the front of the scope down, and so you have to bring your scope reticle down, which gives you the full amount of your adjustment. So whenever you're reading about scopes and it tells you, it'll say it has X number of MOA adjustments. That's the maximum you can get out of turning your knob. And if you want to go further, well, you have to put a rail or be able to adjust it down. Now, unfortunately, this little thing is very accurate. I mean, it repeats amazingly. So it fills the bill for what I wanted to do at a mile. So that takes care of our adjustment. And then you see my little level up here. Well, the reason for this level stuff is because if you can't your scope a little bit, and this is true all the time, but it makes a bunch of difference the further out you go. If you can it, then you're going to shoot in a different place than if it were level. So you very, very carefully put this on, make sure everything's level, make sure your reticles are level, because the further you go, the worse it gets. And then you level up with this at a mile. Now this is a Bushnell Elite 6500 scope, which I don't really care for. I mean, it's not a bad scope. I just I don't like the deterrence, but it's a 4.5 to 30 power, and you would be surprised at how small things are at a mile, even with a 30 power, if you can get it up that high. So it has a stock trigger that's been worked on. Everything about it is stock. I did add this little Kydex cheek rest because I'm a real big believer in trying to get your eye in the exact same place every time. And it's nothing fancy. It's just a piece of Kydex rolled over, and you can adjust it up and down. And so the barrel is a 8.5 twist. Heavy barrel. Very good barrel. But the gun is just so heavy. It's unbelievable. And when you're shooting big rounds, the heavier the better. Now we come to the round itself. All right. Probably most people go, what the heck is a STW? And you're right. What is the STW? Well, the STW stands for Shooting Times Western. There's a bunch of guys out west that started wildcatting these things. And they were big, long, powerful, different, all kind of calibers, but I chose a 7mm because it's a really good long range, lighter cartridge. And they wildcatted and was successful enough that Remington and Winchester, they came out with some of this stuff in the guns. Now, then Remington came out with their Ultramag, which I think is about very, very similar to this. Okay, going way back though, we had the 300 Weatherby, and that was one of the real big, powerful custom wildcats way back. And I'm shooting a Berger 180 grain match target. Okay, so we went out. The first time I ever shot the mile, had no idea. Okay, had done the calculations and figuring and this and that. We put a big old tarp up behind us, and behind a 4x3 foot steel target that we normally shoot, have two targets on for 1,000 yards, and I would have been pretty satisfied if I could have just hit the steel. And we shot, and I had a guy that actually worked for us. He was a young guy. Had him down there off to the side with a four-wheeler so I could shoot and he could run back up there and check, because from a mile it'd take forever and ever to shoot and run down there and see that you had hit nothing. And so we got dialed in on it. It took a little while because he was not seeing the holes in the tarp. Okay, they were there. We were all over it, but he just wasn't seeing them, and you can't really adjust if you don't see them. But finally got on steel, and he started realizing that oh, he's hitting steel. So I was hitting this 4x3, and actually I was getting a group about, I don't know, that big. At a mile, one MOA would be 17.5 inches. So I was probably within the 1 MOA range, except every now and then the bullet would just drop out, or it'd go way high. And when I say drop out or way high, I'm talking about the difference in 4 feet up or 4 feet down. Didn't realize it till I got down there, but I had a wind coming at me, and it would blow real hard straight to me, which you can't see when you're shooting, or it would let up, or I can't see it, and it let up. And so I had this wind resistance coming back and forth, and depending on when I chose to squeeze the trigger, it would either hit or go high or go low. And so got to hitting the target. The guy got confidence in me. I had him a couple of 100 yards down the lane, and we were on our cell phone, so I had a little thing in my ear and he had his, and so I could shoot and he would hear the shot in his cell phone, and then the bullet would hit the steel and I would hear the hit off of his phone, which was just ridiculous, because I mean, we're talking, I want to say it was 3.5, 4 seconds for the bullet to get down there. Well, without me knowing it, he decided he got confidence, and felt safer that I wasn't just going to shoot some wild something and go through the trees that he was hiding behind, and he started easing up. And he got closer and closer without me knowing it, till he was about, gosh, I don't know, 20, 30 yards from the target. And without me knowing this, and he's sitting there with binoculars looking at the target, you know, for some reason, to see if he could watch it hit the steel. And so I shot, I hear it hit the target, and then I hear, ow! Oh my God. I'm like, what? Man, I just got hit. And a piece of shrapnel, which is real dangerous, y'all, okay? And it's a wonder this guy's still alive, just kind of the way he lives his life. But a piece of shrapnel had flown off the target and dead centered him right between the eyes over the binocs, which is my single best shot to date. It didn't kill nobody, but I hit a guy dead between the eyes from a mile. I thought that was funny. Just if you had known this guy, you would think that was funny. So I don't know how much further this gun would shoot. This is pushing a 180 grain bullet. I want to say 3,200. It's over 3,000 feet a second. And when you shoot it, the old muzzle brake here, and it doesn't kick hard at all with this muzzle brake. But you shoot, and all of a sudden this wind is just going by you, which is ridiculous. It's just this huge wind load, and you have to kind of get used to all that blast coming back in your face. It doesn't take long because it doesn't hurt, so you could shoot this all day long, and it wouldn't bother you a bit. So I thought that'd be interesting to talk about some high-powered stuff, and what got me into all this, because this is it. This is the one that got me into all this stuff that I do. Cost me a lot of money. Because you know how a gun is, you just want another one. And that's sort of the way I end up. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. If you ever want to do some long-range, high-powered stuff, this little bullet right here will do it. Just make sure you put a muzzle brake on. Y'all take care. I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll talk to you later. Yeah, we like that.